Welcome to Cozy News Corner for week 4950, your source for open source news. And this is a place where we simply talk about news and just go through what has happened the last week, in this case 2 weeks, because I wasn't able to create one last week. So our first news here is that Valve has a really funded open source development for AMD CPUs and also for ARM CPUs. So the Proton layer running things on the ARM platform, which the Steam machine, and also I'm not sure if the Steam machine, that might be a different architecture, but at least the Steam Deck is running ARM, and they have been funding this development since 2016 pretty much. So they started recruiting people 2016, started to focus on it 2017, and then first prototype was out 2018. So they have been working on open sourcing and having support for the ARM architecture for 7 years now. So it's really long. So that is something that has come out. The Verge were talking about it, and they interviewed a person that was working for it, and they have continued funding this effort. So Valve is really working for the consumer gaming on Linux, which is really nice. Next up, we also gonna do more GPU news. Abanto will do a real rework for AMD GPUs, so you can have AI workloads in your operating system and have a real chance to use your GPU for certain AI things, which is also really nice. AI is the big hype now, so having a layer where you can run Olama on AMD is really nice. I'm running Abanto, but I'm having an Nvidia GPU, so I can't test this. But maybe I can find an AMD GPU somewhere that I can run some loads on just to try it out. It's interesting. And also Nvidia has done some work to release the new graphics drivers that should have better support for Wayland. And sadly, Wayland is a good system. It's a rewrite, but it still has way to go before it's fully available and fully implemented, because X has been there for such a long time. So there is still things in X that doesn't work in Wayland. And a lot of these distributions are going over and saying that we are only running Wayland now, and that could be a potential backlash later on. Hopefully they will figure out all the support so you don't lose any functionality. Next up, we're going to look at some new models here. So if we look at Olama, which I run, it's very easy now to download Mistral 3, which is a new French model. Sadly, when I ran it, I got responses in French a couple of times, even though I asked a question in English. So that might not be the greatest for you. And also Essential AI have released an open weight model here that you can run. I've tried it out. It should support tools, but I wasn't able to make it actually do calls to the backend and actually use the tools. So it's pretty good at answering questions, and it's a little bit more better than the model that I usually use, but sadly the tool support that I need is not there. Next up, we're going to talk about Canonical, Abanto. So Abanto have been around for a long time now, and they have the wiki with a lot of good information on it. Sadly, the wiki has been there for so long, and it also has a very old technology that it's implemented in. And the information there is stale and deprecated in many cases. So what they want to do now is to set up a new system and try to create quality content for the new Ubuntu releases and deprecate a bunch of old articles. And then the new system will be up and running sometime in the beginning of 2026. and then they will decommission the old one in August 2026. So still you can reach the old wiki for a while, but I think it's good to do a retake on this, because you could have so much information there that is just frustrating because it's not valid anymore. Next up, we have the Swiss Data Protection Group. And I think all the countries in the EU has this kind of data protection group. We have one in Sweden as well. And the Swiss group says that the cloud in the US can't really meet the privacy standards. So they are moving to open source solutions, and also to solutions that are more local to the country, instead of using Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and so on. So that is using more open source, using less US native things. I'm not sure if this is a good development for open source or for the world, but at least it's development. Next up, we have VLC, which has a new release with the AMD GPU frame rate doubler and so on. So I use VLC a lot in my work, because sometimes you get some wonky format that you need to convert. It opens all video formats and so on. So it's a very useful tool, and it's available for all platforms and so on. And having better support for the AMD GPU is of course really nice. Next up, we have The Verge, that has some numbers on Steam usage on Linux, which is frankly really cool. So after they have looked at the Steam survey, they have found that 3% of the whole market is using Linux, and that is what they found in October. And of those 3.2% of all Steam users, there is main of them are of course using the Steam OS Hollow, but it's only 25% or so. The rest are using Arch Linux, Linux Mint, CachyOS, Bassite, Abanto, which has about 5 to 10% each. So I think it's really nice to see that Linux is on the rise when it comes to gaming, which means that we probably will get more support, more testing on Linux, even though it might be through Proton. I think game studios should try and run their games through Proton and see that it actually works, and ensure that they don't have any fatal bugs. So I think it's a good development. Next up, we have the Tor project that is releasing a new system, RT 1.8, of the Onion service. And the big thing here is that they have implemented it in Rust. So they have deprecated the old C implementation, and using a more reliable development language like Rust will probably make it more memory safe, and also improve the security of the whole system. And Tor is this kind of onion network where you can enter the network on one point and then exit somewhere else, and be more anonymous in your web browsing. So it's an interesting project. Next up, some Debian news. First, we have a Chromium security update that is critical, and something that you should look and update. So they say that you really need to update this in Trixie. If you look at the CVEs, they have set those as medium, but it's free after use in the password manager that could potentially perform a sandbox escape on a crafted web page. Not good if you're using the password manager. And also Chrome on Android could perform a domain spoofing via a crafted HTML page. So it's important to update these for your Debian system, but it's not super critical, because it's not something that will break your implementation. Next up, we have the libpng security update that we really need to get in there. There is a bunch of several leaks here, and potential for execution of arbitrary code. It's mostly those kind of things where they haven't checked some buffers, and you can do buffer overrun, both write outside a buffer, read outside of a buffer, and so on. So really nifty crafted PNG could take over your system if you are running it through libpng, and it's used system-wide in Linux. So updating this is, of course, very important. And last but not least, we will also talk about the Swiss, this is the German. So this is a German site, KN Online. Not really sure how big this news media is, but there also been some reporting earlier about this in the Die Zeit, which is a really big news publication in Germany. And here is pretty much that one of the people that are working in the Ministry of Digital Affairs have said that the government in Germany should not use US tech, should be US tech independent, and they are saying goodbye to Outlook and Word and so on. So it's pretty much, we are not using Microsoft things anymore. We want to go over to using something that is not Microsoft. And they have gone over to LibreOffice and those kind of solutions. Not the whole government. It's only like 80% that has moved over. So 20% are still using the old system. But they have counted up and figured out that they are doing around 50 million euros in savings per year by using open source platforms instead of the Microsoft platform. And I can't see that this will happen, but logically in my mind is that some of those 50 million euros should go to the development of LibreOffice, right? If you are starting to use a product, even though it's open source and anyone could use it, if you really are saving a lot of money, you could help out and make the development better and help out the people that actually work on the system. So that is my opinion about that. So this was this week's and last week's Cozy News. I hope that you found this interesting. I hope that you learned something today. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave those in the comment section down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues, and I really want to see you in the next video.